On Sunday 27th June 1976, Air France Flight 139 was hijacked by 4 passengers. 2 Palestinians officially aligned with the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestinians (PFLP). The 2 Palestinians were Jael al-Arja and Faiz Abdul Rahim al-Jaber. They were with 2 Germans, Wilfried Boss, a man, and Brigitte Kuhlmann, a woman. The hijack happened after the plane took off from Athens, Greece. The hijackers had the plane flown to Benghazi, Libya to refuel and took off again to land in Entebbe, Uganda, an East African nation then under the ruler Idi Amin. Their demands were that 13 members of PFLP imprisoned in the then West Germany, Switzerland, France, and Kenya, and an additional 40 imprisoned in Israel be released for them to release the hostages. Idi Amin, who is said to have known of the plan from its beginning, welcomed them to Uganda. The 248 passengers turned hostages were moved from the aircraft to a building at the airport. The hijackers then separated all Israelis and several non-Israeli Jews from the larger group and forced them into a separate room. In what Idi Amin termed as a victory for Uganda's negotiation skills, 148 non-Israeli hostages were released and flown out to Paris. 94, mainly Israeli passengers, along with the 12-member Air France crew, remained as hostages. Israel, realizing it could not tolerate Idi Amin's government version of helping hostages, decided to make a point by conducting one of the world's most daring hostage rescue missions in history. And that is how Kenya was roped into the situation. The Israeli intelligence agency, Mossad, together with Israel Defense Forces, planned an elaborate rescue mission in which they convinced Kenya to allow them use Jomo Kenyatta International Airport for logistics. The plan was named Operation Thunderbolt. According to Operation Thunderbolt, a book written by Saul David, a British historian and broadcaster, the 2 sides agreed that Kenya's involvement had to be kept top secret, because had it been made public, it would have badly damaged Kenya's credibility in the eyes of the fellow Organization of Africa Unity, now the African Union members. Not only was Kenya plotting with a country blacklisted by the OAU, but the chief target of the plot, President Idi Amin of Uganda, was serving as chairman of the OAU. Charles Njonjo, the then Kenya's Attorney General, and the then Minister of Agriculture Bruce Mackenzie, who were also close confidants of Kenya's then President Jomo Kenyatta, were highly involved in the secret deal to assist Israel. In fact, 2 secret meetings took place at Attorney General Njonjo's home in Nairobi. Before we go on, guys, please subscribe to my channel, like, comment, and share. On the night of 4th July 1976, the 36-minute Operation Thunderbolt raid began. 20 Ugandans were killed, 3 hostages got killed, together with the 4 terrorists and 3 other terrorists who joined them in Entebbe. That night, Uganda lost 11 planes parked at the airport, wiping out a quarter of Uganda's air force. The Israeli soldiers and their freed hostages got into their C-130s and left for JKIA, Nairobi, Kenya, where the airport lounge had been turned into a makeshift field hospital. They treated their wounded while members of the Kenya Army and the GSU, that is the General Service Unit Police, moved in and secured the airport area. In retaliation for Kenya's role in the mission, Amin massacred hundreds of Kenyans living in Uganda. The number was quoted as high as 245 within the first week after the attack. Note that this is twice the number of rescued hostages at Entebbe. Amin is said to have done this because he knew he couldn't win a war with either Kenya or Israel, so he turned his anger on the civilians. On the larger African continent, Kenya was ostracized by almost all African states. This was because Kenya had gone contrary to OAU's line that foreign troops should not be entertained on African soil. Algeria, for example, wrote to the United Nations Security Council accusing Israel of stubborn determination to expand the scope of its aggression in Africa, Algeria also praised Idi Amin's efforts, which had made possible the release of hostages flown to Paris. Algeria's criticism was an indicator that Kenya might be singled out for criticism. Fearing this, or to forestall any falling out with Idi Amin, Kenya decided to deny that it had offered assistance to the Jewish state, and that Kenya has not and will not be used as a base for aggression against a neighboring or indeed any other country in the world. Kenya went ahead to claim that its airspace was also violated by the Israeli aggressors and was also a victim of their aggression. Egypt, which still had part of its Sinai Peninsula occupied by the Israelis after the Yom Kippur War, issued a diplomatic protest to Kenya and supported the isolation of Kenya by other African states. Only a few African nations would allow their airspace to be used to carry weapons to Kenya in preparation for any attack by Idi Amin forces, which Kenya believed to be imminent. Even Julius Nyerere of Tanzania was not willing to allow it. The only sympathetic countries were Mobutu Sese Seko's Zaire and Cameroon. Even Ethiopia wouldn't tolerate the idea of helping Kenya. As a result, the British, who were willing to arm Kenyans, thought about giving the weapons to the Israelis to fly them to Kenya through the Sinai Peninsula because they knew that the Israelis did not care about violating international law, because the Israelis had demonstrated during the Entebbe raid that they were willing and prepared to violate the international law while staging military overflights of third countries without diplomatic clearance. The isolation came to an end later in time. Today, Kenya and Uganda have strong bilateral diplomatic ties and are even founding members of the East African Community, a future confederation of East African states, and both countries have good relations with Israel too. The isolation of Kenya also dialed down as most states decided to let the issue slide diplomatically.